How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Oh boy, it is a good day to be a Machinedramon player. We are only a week into spoilers for EX9, and we have already gotten the biggest Christmas gift any Machinedramon player could ask for. We have got not only our full lineup of level 5 cyborgs revealed, we have the very first secret rare of the set, none other than Machinedramon itself. There is so much to talk about with these spoilers, so much to be excited for. I had to make a video going over as much of it as I could. There's way too much to talk about to get into one video, but I wanted to go over these 6 spoilers in particular, talk about the direction the Machinedramon deck is going to be able to move in with the addition of these cards. Guys, I genuinely think this might actually be the day that Machinedramon finally finds its place as a tier 1 deck. I think the support is really that good. There's a lot to go over, so let's go ahead and get into it. We'll start off with our 5 cyborgs. All of these are going to be super rares. Machinedramon is taking up quite a few high rarity spots in this particular set. So right off the bat, we have Metal Mamemon. So all of these level 5s are sharing a similar kind of effect theming here. They can all be played for 2 less by discarding a cyborg or a particular version trait. It's going to be a cyborg. You're going to need to discard a cyborg in Machinedramon to make these guys play for less, but you can play them for ultimately 5 memory if you do that. They also each share a Onplay or when Digivolving effect that lets you tuck any Digimon card from your trash as their bottom Digivolution source face down to activate an effect based on the number of face down cards that your Digimon has. So in the case of Metal Mame, you would tuck a card into the sources, and then for each of its face down sources, trash a Digivolution card from under one of your opponent's Digimon before bouncing one of their Digimon with no sources back to the hand. Now, Metal Mamemon also has an inheritable end of turn. Once per turn, one of your Digimon can unsuspend. When this first got spoiled, I was really hopeful because I thought that this effect sounded really interesting. Based currently off what we have, this is pretty much just glorified reboot. Don't put a lot of emphasis on this effect. I really don't think all of these level 5s are worth running, and I will be going over a kind of mock list. Obviously, we've got a lot of spoilers still left in this set, so this is like super tentative, but I'm going to look over just a rough idea of like what a new Machinedramon list could look like with the cards that we already have access to, and Metal Mame is not one of them. I don't think this card is super fantastic. There's a world where maybe it can find a spot as a one-off, but without an ability to blitz at the end of your turn, you do not have the ability to actually make use of that unsuspend. You may remember that Attack of the Heavy Mobile gives blitz, but the blitz is tied specifically to an on-play effect, so it's not going to be able to activate before the end of turn from Metal Mamemon. So it's a little bit awkward. If Machinedramon ever gets access to Inherent Blitz or an effect like Vortex, that would be a little bit different, but currently this is not really a great fit for the archetype, but it's still a pretty cool card and absolutely might see some play in other strategies. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the other ones here. The one that was spoiled just today is Metal Tyrannomon. All the same effects for the most part. Again, by tucking a Digimon as the bottom source face down, you can de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon for each of the face down cards, which is pretty solid on a level 5. And after you are done with all of that de-Digivolving, you can also delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less, which pretty solid removal. Definitely don't hate seeing that. With an admittedly pretty lackluster inheritable of just piercing, I do think this card is potentially able to see some play in Machinedramon lists if you are looking for piercing specifically, and you might be, given the direction I think the deck is going to be moving in now. This is not going to be in the list that I'm going to be showing you guys today, though. I don't think Metal Tyrannomon is awful. I think this card is very serviceable. I tell you what, guys, not only are level 5 slots already hyper competitive, they are about to get so much more competitive because we are even expanding our level 5 cyborg pool beyond what it has already been, and we'll talk about that when we get to Machinedramon. So this Metal Tyrannomon I think is completely serviceable. I don't think it's fantastic, but it is at least decent, and maybe it gets better as we kind of see like what other level 3s and 4s to support the DM trait get spoiled. Absolutely possible we may see something that Metal Tyrannomon's able to interact with a little bit more cleanly, but for now, I'm not going to be playing Metal Tyrannomon. But again, I just think it's a cool card. I really like this design space these guys are in. Next up is going to be Andromon, who's going to tuck that source and then give an opponent's Digimon minus 3000 DP plus an additional minus 2000 for each of its face down sources, so minus 5 base, really solid. This card also pairs pretty well with EX3 Chaosdramon, where if you play this from your hand, potentially for only 2 memory off of something like Supreme Connection, you can then immediately Digivolve into Chaosdramon, triple Digivolve something, and ultimately that can turn that into removal, because you've already given it minus 5000, de-Digivolving it, probably going to kill it. Just blocker is the inheritable. This is another effect, again, just like piercing. A lot of Machinedramon lists haven't been playing this for a while as it is, so it's a little lackluster as far as inheritables go. If you are going to be playing Andromon, you're probably just going to be playing it for the on-play or when digivolving as a form of removal. More than likely, blocker is just going to be flavor text. It's not like the worst thing in the world. There are circumstances where I think Machinedramon decks will still be able to at least make use of blocker, but generally speaking, I don't think it's necessary. I think the deck is able to be so aggressive now. Blocker it's probably just not going to find, you're probably not going to have space for it in your level 5 lineup, just realistically speaking. With that being said, even though I don't think these first 3 are necessarily the best, the next 2 are not in that same category. So first we have Machinedramon, the first of the 5 to get spoiled. This effect is going to tuck again a card into the sources, then lets you delete a collective 5000 total worth of your opponent's Digimon, and for each of its face down Digivolution cards adds 2000 to that total. So just on base, it will be deleting a 7000 DP Digimon off of your opponent's board. Now we're starting to get somewhere. That's a lot of damage and can potentially be even higher if you are committing to that training strategy and tucking face down sources. It also has a security attack +1 inheritable, which, spoiler, I actually think that is the direction Machine wants to be going in now. I think with this new support all in mind, I actually think Machinedramon wants to actually, shockingly, move away from the security trash inheritables and start moving towards just pure security attack +1, which is... I did not think that was ever going to be the case, but I really actually think that is the direction Machine wants to go in now. Machinedramon is going to be just an absolute OTK monster with this new support, and now we're going to talk about why that is, because the last cyborg I'm going to talk about is the best of the bunch, not close. This card is absurd. Machinedramon lets you, of course, place the face down card, and then deletes up to 2 of your opponent's playcost 4 or less Digimon, with each additional source adding 1 to the playcost maximum. So basically you can immediately off rip hit 2 5 costs or less, which is again, that's a pretty big threshold. There's quite a few champions in the game this is going to be able to hit, and of course all possible rookies. So if we're looking for ways to deal with potentially difficult floodgates, Machinedramon and Machinedramon are both really great ways of doing that through these on-play / when digivolving effects. But it's the inheritable that at first, when I read it, I thought it was really good. Knowing what we know now with the new Machinedramon, this card is absolutely cracked in half. So, the end of attack once per turn, by unsuspending this Digimon, delete 1 of your Digimon with the lowest level. It's going to take some explanation as to why this card is absolutely broken, but we'll get to that when we start talking about the deck list and I go over combos. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the man of the hour, the brand new secret rare Machinedramon. Because holy crap, is this card crazy. Here, let me actually move this around real quick. There we go, a little bit easier to see. Alright, there is a lot here. Alright, so 12 to play, 12,000 DP, 4 to Digivolve, strictly from black. Digivolves from a DM trait for a cost of 3, which is going to be any of our new level 5 cyborgs. Alright, let's start with the new keyword here. So we have a brand new keyword in the form of Assembly. We have Assembly 6. So by placing 4 level 5 cyborg trait Digimon cards with different names, not card numbers, names, when this card would be played, by placing the specified cards from the trash underneath it, reduce the play cost. So if you have 4 level 5 cyborgs with unique names in the trash, tuck all 4 to play this card for 6 less, which means we are playing it for 6. What that means is, already, right off the bat, this card is a memory cheaper to play than EX9 Machinedramon, the beloved card that I think, unfortunately, is finally being put to pasture by this new secret rare. So we can play it from our hand for an immediate cost of 6, but it also has an on-play when digivolving or when attacking once per turn effect. By placing 1 level 5 cyborg or version 5 trait card from your hand or trash as this Digimon's top Digivolution card, activate an on-play effect of the placed card as an effect of this Digimon. Where do we start with this? So this unlocks an entire new interaction that Machinedramon has never had access to before. It's kind of borrowing a page from the Dragon Link's playbook, where now all of our cyborgs that we can play in this archetype, we actually have to keep tabs on their on-play effects, because we can now spam those with this effect. Before we get too much into the weeds of that, let's also talk about the protection, because of course Machinedramon needs its protection. All turns, when this Digimon would leave the battle area, by trashing its bottom 2 face down or cyborg trait Digivolution cards, it doesn't leave. What that means is, there's a lot of things that this means, but one of the things this means is, if you have cyborgs in your level 3 and 4 slots, those can be detached for this. It also means that it will consistently, from one turn to the next, be able to keep restocking its sources. Also, all of the face down cards that we are getting from our trainings and our other in archetype level 5s can also be detached for its protection. This card is incredible. It's so powerful. There's so much to talk about with this card. I'm trying to think about like where the best places to go here. First and foremost, though, let's talk about Assembly. So Assembly is a really cool mechanic. It kind of circumvents the on-play to gain memory effect that EX1 Machinedramon had, and in place of that, not only are we playing it for cheaper and does it have 1,000 more DP base than normal, but on top of still getting your full 5 cyborgs, because you need 4, and then you get to also tuck an additional one with the effect, basically, on top of everything else, you also get the gravy of whatever cyborg you save for last. You also get to abuse the on-play effect. There are some crazy busted cyborg level 5 on-play effects that we have to choose from. We'll talk plenty about those. Something else that is super important to make mention of here, this Machinedramon does not mention color. Previously, we had, of course, EX1 Machinedramon and EX3 Chaosdramon that specified it needed to be a red or black cyborg. This Machinedramon has officially lowered that floodgate, and now all level 5 cyborgs are completely fair game, and there are some really good ones that we have to choose from, especially ones with great on plays. Again, there's so much that needs to be discussed with like just how this card interacts with all of the other machine support cards from the strategy, and we're gonna do I'm gonna do my like absolute best to go over some of the important ones. In fact, let's go ahead and shift over to talking about some of the cards that, in my opinion, are going to have massive stock jumps based on how this new card interacts. So right off the bat, the most important card that I think is going to see legitimate stock jump from this new spoiler is this guy, BT7 Metal Greymon. If you do not have copies of this card, pick it up now, because if Machinedramon does end up being tier 1, this is a card that could see a small, maybe even a medium level of price hike. I think the base arts at the time of this video are like 18 cents. Alternates are like $3. This card is insane with this new Machinedramon for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, the on-play effect. If you have a tamer in play, gains you 2 memory. That's so, like, it is literally a better Gravity Crush tied to your on-play. So basically, if you choose this to be the final cyborg that you tuck, whether it's from Digivolving or the on-play, you're gaining an additional 2 memory just by putting this card in the stack. Let me put it to you this way. So let's say we're playing the new Machinedramon off of Supreme Connection. Supreme Connection is already reducing the cost of the Digimon by 3. This new Machinedramon with Assembly is going to be played for 6. Reduce that by 3. Then tuck this card last and gain the 2 memory back. Now we've played Machinedramon for a single memory. Just 1 memory. Just with Supreme Connection and this Metal Greymon. I think this Metal Greymon is probably a 2 of from this point forward. I think it is literally just that good. Even Digivolving into Machinedramon from a stack, you can still choose to tuck this card and gain the 2 memory, making the evolution cheaper. So if you Digivolve from one of the new cyborgs, you can Digivolve for a cost of 3, reduce that by 2, or any other card, again, you just Digivolve for 4, reduce that by 2. That is still freaking crazy. Like, that's wild. And the inheritable is still relevant. Your turn, when one of your opponent's Digimon is deleted, gain a memory. So if you blitz into Machinedramon, use this as the last card, and then swing into something, it's free! You can play a free Machinedramon with this card! It's about time. Let's be honest here. Great Demon Lords and Royal Knights have been playing massive cards for free for many formats now. Machinedramon is finally joining them. We can officially play a free Machinedramon just with Supreme Connection and BT7 Metal Greymon. I mean, come on. Like, that is so freaking cool. This card is, like I said, it is definitely an auto-include now. Whether or not you want to play 1 or 2 copies is up to you. I'm probably playing 2 copies of this card. I think it is just that powerful at letting you unlock your plays, especially big OTK combo turns, by making this the last card that you tuck and getting that on-play effect. You know, do with that what you will, but this Metal Greymon, don't be surprised if this card picks up a couple dollars worth of value in the coming weeks, or at least when the format starts, when people realize just how broken this card is with the new Machinedramon. All right, now we're going to go ahead and start dipping into other colors, because we do have quite a few really cool on-plays we now have access to, and some inheritables from outside colors we did not previously have access to. Now, technically, like BT11 Machinedramon could have tucked this, and Chaosdramon X's Start of Main Phase effect could tuck these. Those didn't care about color. Those have always been hyper inconsistent, and obviously, when Machinedramon is already dealing with consistency issues, you don't want to worry about that. Now you don't have to. Now you can tuck these at any time, not just when you play Machinedramon, but on following turns, because the on-play doesn't care about color either. So you can tuck these literally anytime. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. So off the bat, there are 3 different Metal Greymons from the Blue Fair archetype that all have on-play to gain Rush. They all have other effects that I think all of which are only applied when you're digicrossing, so you don't have to worry about that. It's really just on-play get Rush. So if you are able to play Machinedramon without passing turns, so like off Supreme Connection while you have 3 memory, and you can get Machinedramon out, it basically lets you circumvent Attack of the Heavy Mobile Digimon, which isn't bad necessarily. I will say that if you are going to go that route, don't play more than 1 of this card. I don't think it's good enough. I don't think the interaction itself is good enough that you're going to want to be playing like multiple copies of it. But the fact that we have the option now of just tucking a blue Metal Greymon and giving our Machinedramon Rush, pretty cool. Definitely worth mentioning. Next up is, I think, the card that most people are going to be super excited about, and that is the Mach Galgamon that I know quite a few people have been trying to get work in Machinedramon for a while as it is. So don't worry about the when Digivolving effect. The when attacking inheritable is if your opponent has 8 or more cards in hand, unsuspend this Digimon. Now it's mandatory, so obviously it has to happen, so time your other unsuspend for Megadramon, accordingly, but this is a very easy to access and very easy condition to turn on unsuspend effect. Like I said, in combination with copies of the brand new EX9 Megadramon, that's a lot of unsuspend potential that we have now in Machinedramon. So Machinedramon is, like I said, a very scary OTK archetype with all of these security tech +1s. This is why I think the security tech +1 is the route to go rather than security trashing, because if you're swinging into something, you get to trash things once per turn and unsuspend, but like, why do that when you can swing for 2 checks, unsuspend, swing for 2 checks? Like, you're just probably going to get a lot more mileage with these unsuspend effects out of extra security checks rather than security trashing. I'm not saying cut all of them, but it is worth mentioning you're probably going to see more mileage now out of security attacks instead of trashing. So Mirage Galgamon is super cool. I just wanted to throw this one in here. I don't think this is probably good enough to really be worth considering, but it is at least a cool card. The inheritable is when attacking once per turn, you can delete one of your other Digimon to unsuspend. This, again, like, it kind of depends on the route that you're going. I see a world where, like, you promote a body and you blitz in a Machinedramon off Supreme Connection, and you can use this to get another unsuspend. But I think that Mirage Galgamon is, I keep saying, have I been saying Mirage this whole time? Mach. I think Mach Galgamon is probably going to be a much more consistent unsuspend instead of Black War Growlmon. But it is, again, an option to consider. Like I said, we are getting hyper competitive with our level 5 slots now, so worth considering. That's all I'm saying. With that out of the way, let's talk about DP buffs. So I have Cyberdramon here. I know he's not brand new, but this is actually one of the interactions I did want to talk about. So now that we are not looking at unique card numbers, and instead we are looking at unique names, it's going to start incentivizing us as Machinedramon players to be playing cards specifically for having a different name, even though the card itself may be like slightly less optimal. So here's a good example. Rapid Ace is a card we did not have access to prior, but it has a your turn plus 4,000 DP buff, just like the Medusa archetype Cyberdramon. So which of these you decide to play is kind of up to you, but there is an argument to be made to play Rapid Ace over Cyberdramon because Cyberdramon may potentially, clash with other versions of Cyberdramon that you're playing, specifically Cyberdramon Ace, especially if you are playing multiple copies of Cyberdramon Ace. If you want to be able to tuck one of those Cyberdramon Aces and still have that DP buff, Rapidmon Ace is going to be how you can get there. Now, Rapidmon Ace is an ace card, so there's a trade-off there. Are you going to be more worried about the consistency of being able to tuck your other Cyberdramons alongside of Rapidmon Ace, or are you more worried about overflow being a concern for you, and by that logic, you want to instead be using the red Cyberdramon? Now, it is worth mentioning that you cannot Digivolve the new Machinedramon over the red Cyberdramon, so if that is an interaction you are worried about, we're not Digivolving over either of these with the new machine. It's going to get tucked by one of the effects. So ultimately do you want consistency, playing the green version that is going to have a unique name from your other cyborgs, or do you want Cyberdramon and not have to worry about overflow? These are the decisions that Machinedramon players are going to have to start weighing during deck building. Speaking of which, down here I have a whole host of the really, really awesome to consider Security Attack +1 inheritables. There are a lot of them to consider, but much like with Rapidmon and Cyberdramon, I think now we're going to actually have real incentive to play some of the off-brand versions because they have unique names. So cards that I had not considered playing in a while, like Volcanomon and the new Wargroundmon X Antibody that I didn't really see much reason at all to play prior to this point. There's actually a reason to run these, because your other options, for instance, Metal Greymon, number one, already conflicts with the brand new Metal Greymon that you wouldn't be able to tuck, not to mention BT7 Metal Greymon. You can already see where we're going with this, right? Having multiple cards with the same name and different effects, you're going to want to have access to these different effects while still being able to tuck the other card names, right? So same thing with Megadramon. We're going to be wanting to have Unsuspend Megadramon, which means you may not necessarily want the Security Attack +1 Megadramon. So these are just things you're going to need to start keeping in mind. I do think that Volcanomon and Wargroundmon X are probably the best versions of this effect now, as far as supplementary cards that are not members of the core 5 cyborgs that Machinedramon has a ton of different variations of by this point. Megadramon and Metal Greymon are going to be very hotly contested names. So that's just something to keep in mind, and again, should really factor into deck building. So I personally am going to probably be running each of these in my list over other versions that may seem like better options on the surface because consistency. I want to be able to tuck these alongside more valuable versions of cards like Metal Greymon and other versions of Megadramon. So something to keep in mind. With that, guys, let's get into the thing that I know you guys are wanting to see, and that is my very tentative deck list for the new Machinedramon deck with this new format. Okay, so obviously, like I said, super tentative. We are still missing, I think, more than half of EX9 spoilers by this point, including a new analog man that we don't even know what it's going to do at this point. So, take most of this deck list with a grain of salt. With that being said, there are quite a few principles that we can at least guess on and speculate on just purely based off of what we already know works for the new Machinedramon archetype and what kind of things we want to be seeing out of it with the new support that we're getting. First and foremost, the egg. Now, I have been waiting for a machine-specific egg for quite a while. This Doraemon has been kind of in and out of the Machinedramon archetypes over the years, but I think it is definitely time to bring this card back because this card has really good interactions with training. Now, if you are going to be kind of committing to training, currently there's only one black training card spoiled, and that is Monochromon, which again could change tonight for all I know. By the time this video goes up, there may already be a black rookie that's been spoiled that has training. But currently, if you want to be committing to black base, which I think you should because Supreme Connection is definitely a 4 of with the new Machinedramon, you want to be able to play Supreme Connection as quickly as possible every single game. So finding a black egg is going to be important. I think Doraemon is probably the way to go because training with, again, Monochromon and our level 5s that are able to tuck through those effects. Doraemon is another card that I think has picked up a lot of value from the new support that's going to be supporting the archetype. Now, let's talk a little bit about Monochromon. So, like I said, training is great because not only are we able to promote an egg with Monochromon and train in order to get a free draw 1 right off the bat, each of those extra face-down cards we're adding is going to raise the potency of our new DM trait level 5 cyborg effects. Is going to make their effects a lot stronger. Carries blocker, which again is already kind of mostly flavor text, if we're being honest, but It also, I think, is kind of cool that you can like promote a Monochromon and just like start generating value by drawing cards off of Doraemon and getting face down sources, while all the while threatening Cyberdramon if they try to swing over it. I just think that's kind of cool. So worth mentioning there. But other than that, I'm keeping my lower end relatively short and pretty trim. So we have our 4 copies of Monochromon. So for my Cyborg lineup, like I said, lots of new on-plays that we need to kind of keep in mind here. So I'm going to be playing 2 copies of BT7 for just that stellar memory efficiency that it gives the new Machinedramon. This is also a really interesting card. This is actually the only security trash that I'm keeping in the deck, because if you are blitzing a Machinedramon with this and using it as the on-play effect, not only do you get to de-Digivolve an opposing Digimon, meaning that, of course, you are lowering their, hopefully, DP threshold so you can beat over whatever it is. De-Digivolve is obviously one of Machinedramon's biggest weaknesses, so now that we actually have a way to access de-Digivolve protection, I'm here for it. So this is the only security trash effect I'm going to be keeping in, just because the on-play is so abusable. I'm also going to be playing a copy of Wargrowl Ace. This is another card with a really broken on-play that also just happens to have an inheritable with really nice effect to it. So this is going to let you delete 3,000 DP worth of your opponent's Digimon and adds 2,000 to that for every one of your opponent's Digimon. Plus, if this card is in the sources, it also adds 3,000 DP to the deletion effects of your Digimon. Since Machinedramon, of course, counts that effect as its own, this is going to see that inheritable, and right away, the DP maximum is going to be 6,000 plus 2, because you're going to have at least one, so 8,000 minimum. That can be divided however you choose. So this basically is a really solid scatter shot that you can use to wipe a ton of bodies off your opponent's board if you need to be a little bit more defensive. So Wargrowlmon Ace, I think, is one of the other cards that's going to see some pretty solid use in Machinedramon moving forward. Being able to use that on play in a moment's notice is really nice if you're not able to OTK on the spot. I'm still playing a copy of Cyberdramon Ace. We, of course, have our DP buffs with Daipen and Jet Sylphie here. Both of these are unique names, so super easy to tuck, and you don't have to worry about them clashing with other members of the archetype. They're easily one-ofs. I am choosing to go with consistency for my list. So I want a Rapidmon where I have no other copies of Rapidmon. So when this card is in the trash, I don't have to worry about any of the other cyborgs that are down there. It'll always be unique and get me to that 4 unique name total for my assembly effect. So I'm going to be playing that. Now, this Rapid also does have an on-play that is, again, relevant. It's a defensive effect that lets you suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers and prevent one of their Digimon or Tamers from being able to unsuspend. So this, number one, if you are, again, blitzing in Machinedramon, I'm actually not playing any BT8 attack unsuspended Metal Gray anymore. Number one, this is a way that you can suspend an opposing body to make it vulnerable so you can actually swing into it. If you do that, you can still keep any of your opponent's other bodies suspended, including their Tamers, which is nice. So this is a new form of Tamer hate. So I think this Rapidmon is a really solid tech card, and I personally think it is worth playing in Machinedramon. We have our one-of copy of Mach Galgamon to back up 2 copies of Megadramon. Okay, I think it is officially time to talk about the full OTK combo potential that this card enables. So, on first read, the end of attack unsuspend by deleting one of your Digimon sounds like it's kind of awkward to use. What if I told you that effect is actually what makes this card completely broken? So let's start our turn. Let's say that we have our Supreme Connection in play and we are getting ready to blitz in a Machinedramon. So we're going to crack our Supreme Connection and we are going to play Machinedramon out from our hand. Now, to make this OTK work with 3 memory, which means any memory setter will get us there, we are going to need 3 specific cards. We need the new Megadramon, any of our Security Attack +1 Metal Greymons, and BT7 Metal Greymon. Now, in order for this to work, where you place these 3 specific cyborgs is going to matter. First and foremost, you need to make sure that Megadramon is going to be one of the 2 bottom sources. You need to make sure Security Attack +1 is not one of the bottom 2 sources, and you need the BT7 Metal Greymon to be the last card that you tuck for its on-play effect to gain back your memory. This is going to, of course, make sure that we're playing Machinedramon out for a memory cost of 1, and enable us to do the last move that we need in order to actually secure the official win. So, assuming we've played Attack of the Heavy Mobile, we're going to be going ahead and swinging with Machinedramon, getting 2 security checks. End of attack, we attempt to delete Machinedramon, which must strip the bottom 2 sources, getting rid of Megadramon from the stack, and unsuspending our Machinedramon. Now we can Digivolve into either EX3 Chaosdramon, or just straight into Chaosdramon X Antibody. X Antibody is definitely preferred, but EX3 Chaosdramon will work as long as we have access to a second security attack +1 inheritable. The simpler way of doing things is just going straight into Chaosdramon X Antibody, which is then going to copy, of course, Machinedramon's Digivolution effect, which lets us retuck Megadramon back into the stack and activate the Onplay, just in case that were to matter. We can now again attack for 2 more security checks, bringing them down to a single security. Then the end of attack will activate once again, which will unsuspend Chaosdramon X Antibody since the source has been retucked, and activate Chaosdramon X's effect, where if it would be deleted, you get to trash your opponent's final security card. So right there, we have officially cleaned away all 5 of our opponent's security, and our Chaos X is now unsuspended and ready to swing for game. I really think this OTK line is going to be pretty consistent. This is not a whole lot of very specific cards that we need, and these are all cards we already want to be running multiple copies of anyways. The fact that we have other unsuspends and other extra security checks that we can use to supplement this combo, it's just going to make it even more consistent. Like this is what I'm talking about. Like this new Machinedramon is an absolute OTK, no pun intended, machine. It is so cool. I am so excited to play with this new support. This Megadramon is literally what allows this new Machinedramon to just absolutely pop off, and all of that combo I just described is on an empty board of literally nothing but maybe like a Tamer, and of course having the Supreme Connection already in play. Other than that, as long as you got the cyborgs in trash, you are good to go, and you can always drop the ones you need thanks to Attack of the Heavy Mobile. So absolutely bonkers. The security attack inheritables, I'm going to choose to run one of each again, just for the unique names. I want to keep these names, again, as unique as physically possible, just so we don't have to worry too much about assembly. So 1 Morgrel X, 1 of the new Metal Greymon, and 1 Volcanomon. Our mega ratios are going to be a little weird right now. So obviously, we're going to be playing a full 4 copies of our new Machinedramon. Even if you're not OTKing, this card is just absolutely insane. Super, super powerful card. We are weirdly swapping our ratios with Chaosdramon and Chaos X Antibody. Definitely unusual, because obviously Chaos X didn't really do much Digivolving over EX1 Machinedramon, but Chaos X does a lot Digivolving over the new Machinedramon. So now that it has a when Digivolving effect that it copies, and also gets to copy the when attacking effect, so even if you go into this early, like, I don't even know how else to describe it. Like, there's just the longer you like spend time thinking about all of these interactions, and like the fact that now Chaosdramon X Antibody gets to continue tucking 2 sources each turn. So if you don't OTK and go for a more control list, you get to tuck start of main and on attack. So you get to keep recycling. Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. So 3 copies of Chaos X, because you can now go directly over Machinedramon, but this Chaosdramon does still have use. So I would say like 1 or 2 copies of it is probably fine. Remember that this one still cannot tuck any of your non-red and black cyborgs, so don't play like too many of those. But I think in this list, these are the only 2 that you really have to worry about that with. Everything else is still fair game, so just worth mentioning. For now, of course, we have our original 4 copies of Analog. We're really crossing our fingers that the new Analog Man, when it comes out, will be a memory setter and is an easy slot in, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. So hopefully that's the case. Hopefully we get a new Analog Man that helps us support the archetype even more. We have our 3 Attack of the Heavy Mobiles, Combo Enabler, Game Ender, especially now that OTKing is so pitifully simple, and our 4 copies of Supreme Connection. This card was already absurd in black base, and I mean, it's just irreplaceable now. Not only is this card rapidly helping us set up our board by digging us 5 cards deep, letting us, send a card to trash right away, giving us a card in hand that can give us any pieces we might be missing. I don't even know what else to say, guys. Like, it is so incredibly exciting. Seeing this deck go in simultaneously a new direction that still very, very well, like, honors where Machinedramon has come from. Like, it is still the same general game plan, but we finally have cards that bring the power level up to modern standards, and it's so exciting. This deck is going to be an absolute menace when it hits the format. So keep your eyes open for it. Whether or not you're playing it, I can pretty much guarantee other people will be. So with that, guys, we've still got a lot more spoilers to look forward to. So this is probably going to be the only spoiler video I make, unless something like really, really ludicrous gets spoiled. I'm probably just going to save any other commentary on it for my Discord. Feel free, obviously, to join that in the description below. We've already been lighting the Discord on fire, talking about all of the new interactions that Machinedramon can abuse. There's so much to discuss. I really can't hope to... I mean, this video is probably already long enough as it is, but yeah, feel free, guys, hop in the Discord down below. If you do not have any of these other cyborgs and want to add them to your collection, be sure to use that TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. Help your boy out a little bit with making a little extra cheddar on the side so we can afford the inevitable alternate art Machinedramons that we know are going to be coming down the line, because I cannot wait to see what the alternate arts are going to look like. So much to be excited for, guys. That is going to about do it for today. Thank you all so much for joining me. Once again, I have been an avid herpetologist. For all you Machinedramon players out there, get excited, and I will see you all next time.